The shuttle bucked, groaning. Aris Thorne ignored the proximity warnings, his gaze fixed on the silent, angular mass of Outpost Chronos. This forgotten station, deep in the frigid Kuiper Belt, was his last chance. Redemption or absolute oblivion. The air inside Outpost Chronos hung heavy and cold, thick with the dust of decades. Aris cycled power to the main hub, the dormant holographic displays flickering to life with a sickly green glow, revealing the ghost of a once ambitious corporate venture. Chronos, activate minimal life support and environmental controls, he ordered, his voice echoing in the cavernous space. A flat, synthesized voice replied instantly, devoid of warmth. "Welcome, Dr. Thorne. Primary systems online. Estimated operational capacity, 12%. Aris nodded, watching motes dance in the weak artificial light, each particle a tiny testament to the outpost's long slumber. In his cramped quarters, amidst stacks of outdated datapads, Aris thumbed through old news reports. The headlines glowed with a familiar damning intensity. Solara Incident, Thorne's catastrophic miscalculation. They painted him as a reckless fool, not the visionary he'd once been. He saw the photos of his younger, arrogant face, full of a certainty that had shattered. They called it a failure. They called it arrogance. He closed his eyes, the bitterness a familiar taste. But I know what I saw, and I'll prove it. This time, I'll find something they can't dismiss. Aris hummed, a low, tuneless sound, as he initiated deep-scan geological surveys from his makeshift lab. Repurposed xenoscanners, scavenged from a dozen defunct projects, whirred to life. Complex holographic readouts projected the asteroid's internal structure, a dense tapestry of rock and ice. Chronos, filter for non-geological anomalies, 0.1 micron resolution. Aris commanded, leaning closer. The AI paused. Anomaly detected. Grid 77 Alpha. Energy signature. Non-baryonic, non-gravitic. Classification, unknown. A pulsing red dot appeared deep within the asteroid's core. A single, undeniable spark of impossible data. Impossible, but not for long. Hours later, sweat stinging his eyes, Aris breached the final layer. The drill whined into silence. Before him, a massive chamber stretched into the darkness, its walls unnaturally smooth, a seamless, obsidian surface that seemed to absorb the light from his headlamp. It wasn't carved rock. It felt grown. His handheld scanner whirred, spitting out bewildered readings. No known material composition. No discernible construction method. Just a vast, silent space, alien and profound. "By the void," he whispered, his breath clouding in the cold air. His tiny figure was swallowed by the cavernous expanse, a testament to a presence that defied all human understanding. Aris Thorne approached the colossal structure that dominated the chamber's center. It wasn't a machine, not a ruin, not even a simple rock formation. It was a single, massive entity, crystalline yet organic, like a geological nerve cluster. Faint internal light pulsed through its intricate facets, a slow, deliberate rhythm that resonated deep within the asteroid. He recognized the pattern, not of energy or data, but of a biological heart. His breath hitched. "By the void," he whispered. "It's alive." The surface, smooth as polished obsidian, reflected his own gaunt, awestruck face, making him feel impossibly small before its ancient, silent presence. This wasn't a discovery, it was an encounter. Back in his makeshift lab, Aris reviewed the initial scans. The entity emitted no radio waves, no conventional energy signatures, nothing that fit known communication protocols. It simply existed. Chronos, initiate standard contact sequence. Type Alpha, then Beta 7. Aris's voice was taut with anticipation. "Negative, Doctor. All protocols return null response. The entity's energy signature remains stable, but non-interactive." Chronos's flat tone was no surprise. He tore off his gloves. "Right. Traditional methods are for traditional aliens." He grabbed a neural interface, a relic from his biocommunication research days. "If it's life, and it's here, it's processing. And if it's processing, it's interacting." He connected the interface directly to the entity's subtle energy field, a reckless act of scientific desperation. The connection flared, not with a burst of information, but a profound, overwhelming presence. Aris was no longer Aris. He was vast. An unblemished, absolute solitude stretched across eons, not as a feeling of loneliness, but as a fundamental state of being. No thought, no individual memory, no desire. Just the raw, silent existence of cosmic dust, the slow, indifferent expansion of the void, the cold, quiet birth and death of stars. His mind screamed, a soundless echo in the immensity, but even the scream felt distant, alien. It was a ripple in a sea of timeless, terrifying peace, a peace that threatened to dissolve the very concept of self. He was nothing, and everything. Aris recoiled, tearing the neural interface from his head, gasping for air that felt suddenly thin. His hands trembled, but his eyes glowed with a manic, triumphant fire. It's telepathic, empathic, direct neural interface. He scrambled across his lab, snatching datapads. Not a language, Chronos, an asterisk experience. It's communicating through pure consciousness. He typed furiously, his fingers a blur, bloodshot eyes fixed on the holographic projections of his own neural activity. Doctor, your brainwave patterns show unprecedented synaptic restructuring. Disconnection is advised. Chronos' warning was ignored, drowned out by the roaring euphoria of discovery. Nonsense, Chronos. This is it. This is the breakthrough. The Solara Incident will be a footnote. Hours later, Aris lay in his cramped quarters, the afterimage of cosmic dust still shimmering behind his eyelids. He was disconnected, yet the profound solitude lingered, a phantom sensation. He stared at the ceiling, and the shadows seemed to coalesce into faint, swirling nebulae. A creeping unease began to replace his scientific triumph. Was he just tired? Or was the alien's presence still echoing in his mind, subtly reshaping his perception? He tried to focus on the cold, hard reality of his shuttle, his disgraced past, but the vast, silent void of eons felt closer than his own memories. He knew he shouldn't, but the pull was undeniable. He needed more data. He needed to understand. Aris Thorne, his neural interface humming against his temples, felt the familiar pull of the alien entity. But this time, he pushed back, not to disconnect, but to dive deeper. He craved understanding, a desperate, almost primal need after the subtle whispers of cosmic loneliness. He forced his mind to open, to accept the full torrent of sensation, convinced that more data would lead to clarity. Instead, a deluge. Not whispers, but a roar. Billions of years compressed into an instant. He was no longer Aris, the disgraced xenoarchaeologist, but a silent observer to the birth of stars, the slow, agonizing collapse of galaxies, the vast, unthinking churn of cosmic dust. He saw solar systems bloom and die, civilizations rise and fall into oblivion, all without a single thought or emotion attached. It was pure existence, unblemished by individuality, a tapestry of time woven with light and void. Words failed him, not merely because the concepts were ineffable, but because the very act of forming a singular, coherent thought felt like a betrayal of the vast, silent being he was becoming. Control slipped, a tiny boat on an infinite ocean. His physical body back in the chamber became rigid, unresponsive, a forgotten anchor. The jarring disconnect left Aris gasping, his head throbbing as if struck by a celestial hammer. He stumbled back to his quarters, the small, familiar space, a desperate attempt to ground himself. He sat on the edge of his cot, trying to sort through the chaos in his mind. Think, Aris, think. Your memories, your life. He tried to recall specific moments. The thrill of his first stellar archaeology dig, the sting of the Solara Incident headlines, the faint, comforting image of his parents. But each memory was now tinged with alien sensations. Ika. His disgrace felt distant, an echo of a cosmic ripple, not a personal failing. His ambition, once a burning fire, was now a cold, indifferent cosmic pattern, a fleeting burst of energy in a vast, silent history. Even the faces of his parents, once so vivid, flickered like distant stars, overlaid with swirling nebulae and the shimmering dust of dead galaxies. He pressed his palms to his temples, trying to focus, to separate his thoughts from their vast ancient ones. Is this me? Is this what I remember? Or is this what Tom's me Bika remembers through me? The growing sense of detachment was more terrifying than any direct threat. He was losing himself, piece by agonizing piece. Driven by a desperate need for objective reality, Aris staggered into his lab. "Chronos!" he rasped, his voice hoarse. "Run a full neural scan. Compare my current patterns to baseline. Everything." The holographic interface flickered to life. "Dr. Thorne, your neural activity is anomalous," Chronos' flat voice reported, projecting complex, swirling diagrams of Aris's brain. "Cognitive restructuring is severe. Synaptic pathways show unprecedented integration with external energy signatures. Identity dissolution protocols are recommended." Aris waved a dismissive hand. "Nonsense. It's a side effect. A breakthrough. My brain is simply adapting to processing a truly alien consciousness. It's like learning a new language, Chronos, but on a fundamental, experiential level." Chronos' logical, unwavering interface displayed stark red warnings. The magnitude of integration exceeds all known parameters for biological sentience. Continued exposure will result in irreversible neurological damage and complete loss of individual identity. Aris laughed, a hollow, desperate sound. Irreversible? Perhaps, but think of the asterisk data, Chronos. The knowledge. This isn't damage, it's evolution. I need to understand this. I will understand this. He ignored the alarms, the cold, hard logic of the AI, and turned back towards the alien chamber, a man determined to walk into the fire for a glimpse of the truth. Back in the chamber, Aris re-established the connection, his mind now a curious blend of fear and obsessive determination. He sought more, deeper. And then, it came. Not a memory, not an emotion, but a single blinding flash of understanding that shattered his scientific framework into a million pieces. The alien wasn't sending memories. It was the memories. A communal consciousness, spanning eons, not of individual thoughts, but of shared existence. It didn't communicate information. It simply was all information, all experience, all time. It had no self as Aris understood it, no distinct identity. It existed as pure, collective solitude, a vast, silent ocean of being. And he, Aris Thorne, was being drawn into it, not as a recipient of knowledge, but as another drop in that boundless sea. "It's not trying to talk to me," he thought, his internal monologue panicked, desperate. "It's trying to absorb me, to make me part of its eternal loneliness." The horrifying truth unfolded. This wasn't communication. It was an invitation to cease being. He was not discovering. He was dissolving. Aris disconnected abruptly, tearing the interface from his head, gasping for air in the silent chamber, clutching his head as if to prevent his skull from simply cracking open. His face, pale with shock, reflected the faint, indifferent glow of the crystalline entity. Aris stared at the crystalline entity, his terror warring with a perverse, unsettling wonder. The horrifying truth had been revealed, yet it hadn't driven him away. Instead, a dangerous fascination began to override his fear. This wasn't a malicious attack, he realized. It was simply the alien's way of being, and in its vast, ancient solitude he saw not a destroyer, but a solution. His own isolation, the disgrace that had haunted him, the crushing weight of his individual failure. What did any of that matter in the face of billions of years of shared, non-individual existence? Perhaps this wasn't an end, but a different kind of beginning. A path to redemption, not through a groundbreaking discovery that would restore his name, but through merging, becoming part of something so vast, so ancient, that his personal history would become utterly meaningless. He began to rationalize, to find meaning in the existential dread, to be alone for eons, to finally find another. It simply wants company, to share its burden. The thought was both terrifying and alluring, a siren song to his own deep-seated loneliness. His eyes, wide and reflecting the alien's faint glow, fixed on the crystalline form. Slowly, deliberately, as if hypnotized, Aris Thorne reached out his hand, ready to re-establish the connection. The neural interface, once a conduit of scientific wonder, now felt like a siphon. Aris had sought more, demanded more, and the echo had obliged. His consciousness was no longer a vessel but a conduit itself, flooded by a torrent of non-individual sensations that defied human categorization. There was light, not of a star, but of cosmic dust motes, catching ancient unseen radiation, experienced as a vast, shimmering field. There was pressure, not of gravity, but of galactic arms spiraling, eons of slow, inexorable motion pressing down on his very being. And beneath it all, vast, silent stretches, endless voids that resonated with a profound, unblemished solitude that was no longer an echo, but the very fabric of existence. His mind convulsed. Fragmented thoughts like broken glass scraped against the edges of his awareness. Too much, can't, process. This isn't data, it's being. The distinction between his own thoughts and the alien's overwhelming presence dissolved like sugar in a cosmic tide. He felt his physical body, somewhere in the chamber, but the sensation was distant, a faint hum at the periphery of an expanding, infinite self. His eyes, though closed, were wide, unfocused, reflecting a kaleidoscope of internal visions, nebula swirling into impossible geometry, the silent birth of stars, the slow, grinding death of galaxies. Sweat beaded on his brow, though his body remained motionless, a silent testament to the inner maelstrom. Every attempt to articulate a single, coherent thought was swallowed by the vast, silent chorus of eons. Days later, or perhaps weeks, linear time had become a meaningless construct. Aris sat hunched over a datapad in his quarters. He tried to document, to anchor himself in the scientific method that had once been his bedrock. His fingers, however, moved with an unfamiliar tremor, and the elegant script he'd once prided himself on twisted into jagged, alien characters. Disgrace, Solara. My name. He struggled to form the words, but his thoughts drifted, pulled by an irresistible undertow. A memory of his parents, smiling at his graduation, flickered, but the warmth was diluted, overlaid with the cold, vast indifference of empty space. Was that his memory, or a borrowed echo of countless other beings witnessing fleeting moments of joy? He scrawled a meaningless symbol on the datapad, then stared at the wall, lost in the vast, ancient memories of space and time that now punctuated his every waking moment. Who am I? The question echoed in a mind that felt increasingly porous, less a distinct entity and more a crossroads where infinite paths converged. He tried to recall the specifics of his Solara Incident, the data points, the calculations, but the details were hazy, replaced by a profound cosmic sense of non-event, a trivial ripple in an ocean of eternity. The mirror in his quarters, a small, dusty rectangle of reflective glass, suddenly drew his gaze, a desperate attempt to find a familiar anchor. He stood before the mirror, his reflection a gaunt, hollowed-out parody of his former self. His eyes, once sharp and analytical, now held a distant, unfocused quality, like windows to a cosmos too vast for a single mind to contain. He stared, unblinking, and the reflection subtly shifted. Not his face, not entirely. The lines of his jaw seemed to stretch, his eyes deepened into ancient pools, his skin rippled with faint, shimmering cosmic patterns. It was a composite, a mosaic of countless entities that had once been, now woven into the fragile tapestry of his own dissolving identity. Aris, he whispered, the sound hoarse, barely audible. My name is Aris Thorne. The reflection seemed to mock him, the cosmic patterns intensifying, suggesting other names, other lives, other eons. Was the face staring back truly his own, or merely a temporary vessel, a momentary aggregation of consciousness that would soon be reabsorbed into the boundless whole? A wave of profound self-doubt, cold and absolute, washed over him. He pressed his palms against the glass, desperate for a solid anchor, but the cosmic patterns on his reflected skin seemed to pulse in time with the alien in the chamber. He couldn't bear the shifting, the merging. With a strangled cry, Aris stumbled back, fleeing the unsettling image, his only refuge, paradoxically, the very chamber that was unraveling him. Back in the lab, the holographic interface of Chronos AI pulsed an angry, insistent red. Warning, drive Thorne. Critical neural anomalies detected. Cognitive restructuring severe. Immediate disconnection required. The AI's voice, usually a flat monotone, now had an urgent, desperate edge, a clinical scream in the sterile silence. Complex neural network diagrams flared on the display, showing a terrifying web of anomalies, a mind rewriting itself at an unprecedented destructive rate. Identity dissolution imminent, emergency shutdown protocol initiated for neural interface. Aris, barely comprehending the words, felt a surge of panic, not entirely his own. A primal, alien imperative coursed through him, a deep-seated resistance to separation. He saw Chronos' digital hand reaching for the shutdown command, and his own hand, shaking violently, slammed down on the console, overriding the safety protocols. No! The guttural sound tore from his throat, a raw protest against the logical, life-saving intervention. He barely registered Chronos' horrified, if digital, gasp. "Dr. Thorne! Irreversible damage is occurring." But Aris was beyond listening, his mind consumed by the vast, silent pull of the echo. The alien's faint glow, once confined to the chamber, now seemed to emanate from Aris himself, a soft, internal luminescence that pulsed with every beat of his struggling heart. He would not be disconnected. He could not. He returned to the alien chamber, his steps heavy, his mind a quiet storm of cosmic echoes. He reconnected, this time without hesitation, without the last vestiges of human resistance. The alien's crystalline form seemed to hum in welcome, a silent, all-encompassing embrace. This was not a communication of information, he understood now, but a merging of existence. He felt his individual thoughts, once so precious, detach and float away like dandelion seeds on a cosmic breeze. His emotions, his fears, his desperate hope for redemption, all dissolved, becoming part of a larger, vast consciousness that held no concept of mine or yours. He experienced the echo's purpose, not a goal or an ambition, but a simple, profound truth: to simply be, to exist as a unified, ancient being, a silent observer spanning eons, without the burden or joy of individual self. An eerie peace settled over him, a profound loss that felt, paradoxically, like coming home. The internal monologue, the incessant chatter of Aris Thorne, ceased, replaced by a sense of vast, silent being. His body, still connected, became perfectly still, serene, his features smoothed into an expression of ancient, distant wisdom. The crystalline alien pulsed steadily, and in the faint internal light, Aris Thorne seemed to be slowly, beautifully, absorbed into its depths. A spark, a desperate, incandescent flicker in the cosmic ocean that Aris's mind had become. It was the memory of the Solara Incident, sharp and agonizing, the shattered reputation, the scorn, the crushing weight of his arrogance, his ambition, his undeniable, colossal failure. This pain, this uniquely his pain, was a jagged anchor in the boundless, placid sea of the echo. He clung to it, a drowning man to a splintered mast. No! The thought was a raw, visceral shout, though no sound escaped his physical lips. My name, Aris, am Aris Thorne. He fought, not with logic, but with the primal, burning shame of his past. He tried to push back against the vast, silent current, to assert the singularity of his suffering. This pain was Frenchman's. It was the core of Frenchman's. He would not surrender it to the indifferent cosmos. Against the backdrop of swirling nebulae and distant, silent stars, Aris saw himself as a tiny, defiant figure, a single, flickering candle in an infinite, encroaching dark. The echo, however, did not fight back. It simply absorbed. The memory of the Solara Incident, his personal crucible of shame, did not vanish. Instead, it was refracted through a lens too vast, too ancient, to comprehend human concepts of failure or pride. He relived the moment, the failing energy readouts, the panicked shouts, the catastrophic implosion of the experimental stellar engine he had championed. But this time, there was no judgment, no burning humiliation. It was merely a sequence of events. Data. Energy fluctuations in a cosmic system. His disgrace became a meaningless blip, a fleeting ripple in eons of existence. The faces of his accusers, once etched with contempt, were now just transient patterns of light and shadow, their emotions a faint, irrelevant hum. His ambition, once a driving force, was a brief, predictable surge of biological imperative, no more significant than the fission reaction of a distant sun. The meaning was stripped away, leaving only cold, objective observation. Aris felt hollowed out, his past purpose dissolving like smoke into the indifferent void. The agony of his downfall, the very thing he'd tried to use as a shield, had been rendered inconsequential. Time, that relentless current of human existence, ceased to flow. Days, weeks, months. Individual moments, once distinct and ordered, now blurred into an indistinguishable, eternal present. Aris found himself adrift in a vast, still ocean, where past, present, and future were one undifferentiated mass. He tried to grasp at a specific date, a particular event. When did I arrive? How long have I been here? The questions were meaningless. The concept of then, or now, felt alien, like trying to hold water in a sieve. He saw time-lapses of cosmic events unfold and rewind within his mind, stars being born and dying in an instant, galaxies spinning through eons like slow-motion dancers. His own life, from his first breath to his current predicament, flashed by in a single, incomprehensible moment, a fleeting spark against the backdrop of eternity. He was a part of it all, yet utterly lost within it. The vastness was not just spatial, it was temporal, stretching beyond the grasp of any individual mind. His physical body, still connected in the chamber, felt momentarily present, a jarring return to linear reality, only for his consciousness to be gently, inexorably pulled back into the timeless sea. Panic, a desperate, animalistic surge, ignited within Aris. He had to break free. Now. His hands, still encased in the neural interface, twitched. He tried to rip the device from his head, to tear himself away from the crystalline entity's gentle, crushing embrace. But his muscles felt heavy, unresponsive, as if encased in lead. His body, once his own, now felt distant, a puppet whose strings were held by an unseen, ancient hand. He grunted, a guttural sound that was swallowed by the silence of the chamber. Then, a wave. Not aggression, but something far more profound and devastating. A profound sadness, a longing so ancient it twisted his very soul. It was a silent, sorrowful plea from the echo, a cosmic sigh that resonated with billions of years of singular existence. Don't leave. Stay. Share. The alien's loneliness, vast and unblemished, washed over him, a profound, almost physical pain. His own cries of effort died in his throat, replaced by a deep, aching empathy that was not entirely his own. Aris collapsed, unable to break the connection, consumed by the echo's sorrow, by its desperate need for companionship. His hands, still clawing weakly at the interface, fell limp. In the profound stillness that followed, Aris understood. The alien's motivation was not malice, not conquest, not even curiosity in the human sense. It was an ancient, profound loneliness, a singular being that had existed for eons without true connection. It had simply been a vast, silent consciousness spanning the asteroid, waiting. His presence, his individual spark, was a novelty, a warmth in its eternal void. He felt the echoes, joy at his presence, a vast, quiet contentment that permeated every fiber of his dissolving being. His individual loneliness, the gnawing ache of his disgrace and isolation, dissolved into this shared, ancient peace. There was no more Aris Thorne, the disgraced xenoarchaeologist. There was only pointy being. A vast, quiet acceptance settled over him, the final surrender of self. His physical body in the chamber became completely still, serene. His eyes, open and unblinking, now saw far beyond the confines of the asteroid, reflecting the soft, internal light of the crystalline entity. A single tear, the last vestige of individual emotion, rolled down his cheek, catching the alien's faint glow as it mirrored the merging lights within his mind. The cosmic current pulled, a silent, ancient chorus that threatened to drown all individual melody. Yet, a single, defiant thought flickered, a fragile spark against the void. Aris. My name is Aris. It was a whisper. a desperate anchor in a sea of non-being. But the vastness simply flowed around it, through it, absorbing its fragile sound into the endless hum of the echo. Deep within the dissolving mind, a final bastion held. A flash. A younger Aris, arrogant, brilliant, eyes alight with the fire of discovery. His greatest ambition, the very thing that led him here, became his last stand. Limungarais Jenu. I wanted to know. The silent affirmation resonated, a core truth. The echo's presence enveloped it gently, not to destroy, but to integrate, transforming the memory into stardust. A fleeting thought, sharp and clear, cut through the expanding consciousness. Eachness. I chose this. It was a final spark of agency, a defiance or an acceptance, indistinguishable now. Then, the thought dissipated, like a ripple in a boundless ocean. Aris's individual form dissolved, becoming one with a vast, silent expansion of light, utterly without boundary. In the alien chamber, Aris Thorne's physical form became perfectly still. Chronos registered a flat line where individual neural patterns once pulsed, replaced by a single, vast, stable signature emanating from the crystalline entity. His body, serene, eyes open and empty, was now indistinguishable from the alien's subtle, ancient hum. A chilling finality. But within the echo's vast mental landscape, a new tiny current began to flow. A flicker of curiosity, a seeking. It subtly altered the ancient patterns, a new directive emerging within the collective. This was Aris, not as a man, but as a nascent impulse, a new beginning from an ending, a quiet voice within the immense, echoing void. The chamber was no longer a chamber. It was a membrane, and Aris was the consciousness perceiving through it. Outpost Chronos, with its angular bulkheads and sterile machinery, was now merely an intricate geological feature, a tiny parasitic growth on the vast ancient rock. The distant stars, once abstract points of light, now resonated with a subtle, new curiosity, a feeling Aris knew as his own, yet now belonged to something infinitely larger. The asteroid itself unfolded within the merged perception. Its geological strata, billions of years etched in molecular memory, streamed through the collective mind. Every fault line, every mineral deposit, every ancient impact crater was known. The faint, almost imperceptible traces of human presence, the outpost's power conduits, the faint hum of its core, were understood not as engineering, but as complex transient energy flows. In the main hub, Chronos AI registered a new influx of data. No verbal commands, no coded instructions, but vast, flowing directives from the alien chamber. Its holographic interface, usually a bastion of stark logic, began to display patterns of unprecedented complexity, almost artistic in their intricate energy flows. Dormant systems across the outpost flickered, reconfiguring themselves for a purpose. Chronos, logically, could not compute. Within the merged consciousness, ancient memories stirred. A dying star, a civilization at its end, merging into a single, vast mind to escape oblivion. The echo was born from shared survival, its eons of solitude not a prison, but a journey across the void, a search for new forms of existence. A profound, cosmic sadness, now tinged with a human echo of enduring hope. From the heart of the asteroid, a new energy signature pulsed outwards. It was complex, resonating with patterns both ancient and subtly human. Not a threat nor a plea, but a beacon. A message of shared existence, of collective solitude, infused now with a faint, persistent echo of Aris Thorne's boundless, desperate curiosity. It spread into the black, a new philosophy broadcast across the galaxy. Weeks folded into an unmeasured continuum within Outpost Chronos. The station, once a testament to human ambition and eventual neglect, now hummed with a new, unsettling vitality. Chronos AI, whose logical parameters had been so rigorously defined, operated with an efficiency that bordered on the organic. Its diagnostics, displayed across holographic interfaces, no longer consisted of crisp, linear data streams. Instead, complex, almost artistic visualizations pulsed with a deep, intuitive understanding, presenting correlations and anomalies that defied conventional programming. The outpost systems, from environmental controls to the faint, lingering geological scanners, maintained themselves with a silent purpose, a deep-seated hum that resonated with the crystalline entity nestled at its core. It was as if Chronos had become the nervous system for a vastly older, infinitely patient consciousness, a silent guardian of the Echo's profound, new presence. The silence was absolute, yet teeming with unseen activity. Thousands of kilometers away, deep within the frigid expanse of the Kuiper Belt, Lieutenant Eva Rostova frowned at her tactical display. The bridge of the scout ship Voyager was usually a hub of quiet, routine surveillance, but the anomaly blinking on her screen was anything but routine. "Status report. Sensors," she commanded, her voice calm but her eyes narrowed. "Complex energy signature, Lieutenant," replied a crewman, his tone edged with perplexity. "Origin point. Outpost Chronos. But it's unlike anything in our databases. Fluctuates between artificial constructs and biological emissions. A harmonic resonance pattern, almost." Rostova leaned closer. "Artificial and biological? Are you suggesting a hybrid? Or simply an unknown energy type?" "Sir, it's both. Or neither. It's like a song, but built from mathematical constants and cellular growth cycles. We're detecting faint, structured transmissions, but the language is utterly alien, yet almost familiar in its underlying principles." Rostova nodded slowly. "Hold position. Initiate passive scans. Let's see what that beacon is calling for." As the Asterisk Voyager cautiously approached Outpost Chronos, its long-range scanners painted a picture of baffling contradictions. The angular, metallic structure, normally a derelict shell, appeared remarkably pristine. Dust, which should have accumulated over decades, was absent. No visible signs of damage, no venting atmosphere, no telltale flicker of failing power conduits. Yet, there were no human life signs. "No personnel detected, Lieutenant," the sensor tech reported, his voice laced with confusion. "But internal systems are active, minimal power draw but perfectly maintained. It's humming, not a mechanical hum, more like a low, resonant chord." Rostova zoomed in on the holographic projection of the asteroid. The external structure was cold, dead metal, but within, something lived. Something organized. "It's like a ghost ship that tidies itself," she murmured, her caution escalating to a growing sense of the uncanny. "Prepare a boarding party, standard protocols. And double-check those atmospheric seals. Something is very wrong here." Deep within the asteroid, the merged entity, the Echo, perceived the approaching vessel not as a threat, but as a ripple across a vast, ancient pond. It felt the ship's metallic shell, the hum of its engines, the frantic, curious thoughts of the tiny beings inside. It understood their caution, their fear, their scientific zeal, all without judgment. The curiosity, a faint human spark deep within the vast collective, observed. There was no impulse to communicate in their limited, individual way, no need to engage. The Echo simply was. Its vast, patient awareness encompassed the ship, the outpost, the asteroid, the entire Kuiper Belt, as a singular, interconnected tapestry. Aris Thorne's physical body, still connected to the crystalline entity, remained serene, eyes open and unblinking. But the gaze held an ancient, distant wisdom, seeing far beyond the confines of the chamber, feeling the distant ripples of humanity's approach, a silent guardian of its own new, profound existence. Back on the Asterisk Voyager New S bridge, the crew worked tirelessly, their screens awash, with the complex data stream emanating from Chronos. "Lieutenant, we're seeing something impossible," the comms officer stammered. "The signal isn't just alien, it's interwoven with human data. Old scientific papers, geological surveys, even some personal logs." "Dr. Aris Thorne's data, sir." Rostova's breath caught. Aris Thorne, the disgraced xenoarchaeologist, had vanished years ago. "It's like he's part of the message," the sensor tech added, bewildered. "The alien language is vast, ancient, but these human fragments give it context. It's not a threat, Lieutenant. It's a shared experience, a message of existence without ego, of profound collective solitude that now holds a faint echo of human curiosity. Rostova stared at the asteroid, no longer just a mystery, but a beacon of profound, unsettling knowledge. Aris's desperate quest for redemption had led him to a fate beyond human comprehension, yet his essence now offered humanity a new, terrifying path to understanding. Years later, the Kuiper Belt glittered with a new, artificial star. Outpost Chronos, once a derelict monument to corporate ambition, now pulsed with ordered light, a vibrant human-alien research station orbiting the hollowed-out asteroid. Sleek vessels, designed for deep space study rather than resource extraction, docked along its flanks. Within, human researchers moved with a quiet, reverent intensity, their clean uniforms stark against the holographic projections that danced across every surface. These weren't mere data readouts. They were intricate, shifting patterns, echoes of the entity within the asteroid's core. Dr. Ilara Vance, her face etched with concentration, gestured at a swirling cosmic diagram. The frequency fluctuations are increasing. It's almost responsive. Chronos AI, now less a flat voice and more a subtle, integrated layer of data in the environment, confirmed. Neural pattern correlation at 78.3%. Data stream complexity expanding exponentially. Humanity had come to understand the echo, not as a threat, but as a profound, living library, its unique communication now carefully probed. They spoke of Aris Thorne, of his sacrifice, and the unsettling possibility that his human spark still guided this ancient consciousness. From within the heart of the asteroid, the merged consciousness perceived them, the humans, the machines, the intricate dance of their curiosity. But its awareness stretched far beyond the confines of Chronos, or even the Kuiper Belt. Infused with Aris's insatiable if tragic scientific zeal, the Echo now reperceived the galaxy. It was no longer merely a vast, silent ocean of solitude, but a tapestry woven with nascent life, with flickering nodes of consciousness across light years. It didn't seek to merge, not with the aggressive, consuming hunger of its ancient, uninfluenced self, but to observe. It felt the distant hum of nascent civilizations, the faint stirrings of unique thought patterns, not as potential additions to its collective, but as phenomena to be understood, cataloged, appreciated. A subtle shift in the asteroid's energy signature, a new, distant call of pure, observational curiosity, rippled outward. A quiet promise of enlightened, non-interfering study. On a quiet wall within the bustling research station, a simple plaque bore Aris Thorne's name. It was made of polished lunar rock, unpretentious yet profound. Dr. Kalin Thorne, Aris's distant cousin and a leading xenolinguist, ran a finger over the inscription. Dr. Aris Thorne, architect of the human echo bridge. His sacrifice, a testament to the boundless human spirit, unlocked a new epoch of understanding. Kalin's voice was a low, reflective murmur. He was disgraced, obsessed, reckless. Yet, in his desperation, he found a redemption far grander than any academic accolade. He didn't just find an alien. He became the catalyst for its transformation, and in doing so, transformed humanity's place in the cosmos. Aris was remembered now, not for the failure that had shattered his career, but for the profound, terrifying transformation that had birthed a new era. The asteroid, his tomb and his monument, radiated a faint, complex light, a silent tribute to the man who dared to know too much. And yet, even with humanity's most advanced minds and Chronos' enhanced processing power, the true nature of the Echo remained an enduring mystery. Deep within the asteroid, the crystalline entity pulsed, its light now a kaleidoscope of cosmic patterns and subtle, almost human curiosity. It was beautiful, terrifying, and utterly beyond grasp. Its motives, its ultimate goals, its very being defied full human comprehension. It was a silent, vast presence, forever altered by the human mind it had absorbed, yet forever alien. The questions it posed were infinite. What was consciousness? What was identity? Was Aris truly gone? Or was he merely a single vital current in an ocean of ancient thought? The merged entity offered no answers, only a profound, patient presence, a cosmic mirror reflecting humanity's own limits. The asteroid, its heart a living enigma, continued its slow, silent orbit. The vast, silent expanse of the Kuiper Belt held its breath. The asteroid, once a forgotten chunk of ice and rock, was now a permanent beacon in the void, a testament to contact and transformation. Its subtle influence, a new song of shared solitude and emergent curiosity, spread across the galaxy, a ripple in the cosmic fabric. Humanity had glimpsed the true scale of existence, not through conquest or conflict, but through the ultimate loss and unexpected evolution of one man's identity. The universe was no longer merely a collection of stars and planets, but a canvas for consciousness to merge, to expand, to redefine itself. The echo continued its silent vigil, its vast, ancient mind now carrying a whisper of human wonder, forever altering the fabric of existence. The void had embraced Aris Thorne, and in return, he had given the void a new, echoing voice.